Burt Lancaster. List the most villainous performers from Hollywood's golden age. On November 2, 1913, in Manhattan, New York City, Burt Lancaster was born. Burton Stephen Lancaster. He was one of the most famous and talented actors of Hollywood's golden age. His parents were working class and lived in East Harlem. His father worked for the Postal Service while his mother stayed at home. Lancaster's Irish-American family was close-knit but difficult. He showed a strong sense of independence, athleticism, and natural charm from a young age. These traits would help him later on stage and television. He went to DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx and then got an athletic scholarship to New York University, where he was quite good at gymnastics and basketball. Before he became a famous leading actor in Hollywood, Lancaster became famous as an acrobat in a circus. In his early 20s he joined the K Brothers Circus and spent a few years touring the country as part of an acrobatic pair with his friend Nick Cravat. This experience not only improved his physical skills, which let him do his own stunts in many of his movies, but it also taught him discipline and how to be present, which helped him in his acting career. It was kind of by luck that Lancaster ended up on the big screen. After serving in the U.S. Army during World War II in the Special Services Unit, where he entertained troops, he was encouraged to try acting. He served in the Army during World War II in the Special Services Unit, where he entertained the troops. This made him want to try acting. In 1946, he got his big break with the noir classic The Killers, in which he played the doomed Swede. This part made him an exciting and intense new face in Hollywood right away. With his strong body, Lancaster became a famous leading man in the late 1940s and 1950s because of his piercing blue eyes and strong screen presence. Burt Lancaster was more than simply a good-looking action actor during his career. He was really dedicated to pushing himself as an artist by taking on roles that went against type. He was in a lot of different types of movies, from film noir and swashbuckling adventures to socially aware movies and close-up character studies. His most famous part is as Elmer Gantry in the 1960 film of the same name, which won him an Academy Award. He played a passionate and fiery traveling evangelist. From Here to Eternity, 1953, is another well-known movie in which he acted out one of the most famous romance scenes in movie history with Deborah Kerr. The Sweet Smell of Success, 1957, Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962, Judgment at Nuremberg, 1961, Atlantic City, 1980, and Local Hero, 1983. Lancaster was a famous film producer as well as an actor. He helped start Hecht Hill Lancaster, which was one of the earliest independent production firms in Hollywood, via which he helped make a number of important movies. Marty, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1955, was one of these movies. It helped American movies develop stories that were more realistic and focused on characters. He utilized his power to support issues that were important to society and fight against censorship and racism. Outside of the screen, Lancaster was noted for being very honest and having a strong sense of right and wrong. He spoke out against the House Un-American Activities Committee early on and was a strong supporter of civil rights and liberal political agendas. He marched with Martin Luther King Jr., denounced the Vietnam War, and stayed politically involved for the rest of his life. He was quite secretive, but his peers recognized him for his brilliance, professionalism, and a strong dedication to both his work and his beliefs. Lancaster kept acting in movies that made people think and let him show off his more mature, introspective side even as he got older. At the age of 67, he was nominated for an Academy Award for his role in Atlantic City. In 1989, he played the gentle Moonlight Graham in Field of Dreams, which exposed him to a new generation. He stopped acting after having a stroke in 1990 that left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak coherently. However, his body of work is still proof of his incredible talent and lasting appeal. Burt Lancaster was a famous American actor who was noted for his strong screen presence and athletic charm. He had a complicated and tumultuous personal life, with many marriages and several well-known romantic relationships. Lancaster was married 3 times during his life, and each marriage added something unique to the story of his life. He married June Ernst for the first time in 1935, when he was just starting out in his career as a performer. At first, he worked as a circus acrobat, and then he became an actor. June Ernst, Lancaster met a trapeze artist through his work in the circus. They both loved performing and the spectacle of entertainment. But in the 1940s, as his career in Hollywood started to take off, their paths started to split. Their relationship was strained by the stress of a growing film career, constant travel, and the growing responsibilities of becoming a star. The couple been together for more than 10 years. In the end, their marriage couldn't handle the stress of these upheavals, and they split up in 1946. The couple didn't have any kids, and their relationship finally ended quietly as Lancaster's fame grew. Later same year, in 1946, Lancaster married Norma Anderson. This would turn out to be his longest-lasting and most important relationship in terms of family life. During the height of his fame in Hollywood, Norma helped him stay stable. James, William, Susan, Joanna and Sile were the couple's 5 children. Lancaster loved them very much, even though his personal schedule was often hectic, and his job required a lot of his time. Their marriage lasted more than 20 years, and was with the actor through some of the most important times in his career, featuring his 1960 Academy Award triumph for Elmer Gantry and his work on socially aware films. But even though they had been together for a long time, their relationship wasn't always easy. Lancaster's affairs outside of marriage, long absences for films, and growing emotional isolation finally led to their divorce in 1969. Even though the marriage ended in divorce, Norma Anderson was still a significant person in his life, especially because she was the mother of his children. Lancaster didn't get married again until considerably later in life. In 1990, he married Susan Martin, who was much younger than him. She was with him during the latter years of his life. Their connection was warm and caring, even if it didn't last long because Lancaster's condition was getting worse. Susan was there for him as he fought heart illness and dealt with the effects of a stroke that left him unable to work in 1990, just a few months after they got married. She was his wife till he died in 1994, and she took care of him and gave him emotional support in his last years. Lancaster's marriage later in life brought him some peace and solace at home after years of complicated relationships and personal problems. Besides his legal marriages, Lancaster had a number of high-profile relationships that often made news in Hollywood. During the making of the 1953 classic From Here to Eternity, he was romantically involved with British actress Deborah Kerr. This was one of the most talked about things about him. Their chemistry on television was clear and electric, ending with the now famous beach scene, which is one of the most famous romantic scenes in movie history. It is said that their love off-screen was just as passionate as their on-screen performances, even though they were both married at the time, and kept their affair quiet. People believe that the romance with Kerr was quite emotional and had a lasting effect on both stars. Along with his relationship with Kerr, people said that Lancaster was in a romantic connection with Joan Blondell, a prominent actress from the 1930s and 1940s, who was recognized for her humor and charm. It was never publicly acknowledged in exactly how long they were together, but their strong friendship and regular appearances together at Hollywood gatherings led some to think they were more than just friends. Another romance that got a lot of press was with Shelley Winters, an opinionated and fiery actress who has had her own line of Hollywood romances. Winters, who was never shy about talking about her past, implied in her memoirs that she had a relationship with Lancaster. She described him as intense, passionate, and emotionally aloof at times, which seemed to be the case in many of his personal relationships. As the golden light of classic Hollywood faded into the memories of the 1970s, Burt Lancaster, one of the most powerful actors on screen, wrote a hidden memoir to set the record straight. People saw Lancaster as the strong-jawed hero, the romantic swashbuckler, and the moral rebel, but he said he had witnessed a side of Hollywood that few people were brave enough to talk about. With a pen in his hand and anger in his heart, he started writing what would turn out to be one of the most shocking unauthorized exposes of the top stars in the entertainment world. He termed it a list of survivors, which was the most wicked of them all. One of them is Kirk Douglas, the heartless giant. Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas worked together a lot, from Gunfight at the OK Corral to 7 Days in May. But Lancaster's private notes say the friendship hid a lot of anger. He said that Douglas was a man made of ambition and covered with ice. People throughout the world saw Douglas as a heroic Spartacus, but Lancaster saw him as a schemer who stepped on his co-workers to get to the top. Lancaster claimed that he would steal a role from his own son if it meant getting one more headline. He said that Douglas had betrayed him in secret and blacklisted him without mercy, and using his charm to hurt his enemies. Natalie Wood, the siren with a secret. Lancaster thought Natalie Wood was nothing like the innocent young woman she played on TV. He thought she was a master at getting people to feel sorry for her and influencing powerful guys. He said he saw her use emotional warfare, putting directors and co-stars against each other to get forward. He said she could cry on cue in the middle of a boardroom or a bedroom, which made it sound like she used her perceived weakness as a weapon. Lancaster hinted ominously at the chaos she left behind after her sad death, which is still a mystery. 3. Mickey Rooney, the Mask of Mischief. People thought of Mickey Rooney as the best boy next door in America, but to Lancaster, he was a firework, having a short fuse and a bad side. He said that Rooney's charm was just a cover for how mean he was, especially to women and younger actors. Burt claimed that he was a clown, who liked to humiliate others. He told anecdotes of Rooney making fun of extras, ruining scenes, and enjoying the pain of his opponents. Lancaster thought that Rooney's many marriages were not indicators of bad luck in love, but a pattern of control and abandonment. The Diamond Queen of drama is Elizabeth Taylor. Lancaster could see past Elizabeth Taylor's violet eyes, even though her name was full of elegance and scandal. He said she was like a hurricane wrapped in silk that could turn a whole set into a battlefield. He claimed that she didn't only take scenes, she took souls. He said that Taylor utilized her looks and fame to control her co-stars, throw fits and make directors do what she wants. Her troubled marriages were the stuff of folklore, and Lancaster hinted that her inner turmoil often got in the way of both work and relationships. 5. Spencer Tracy, the dictator behind the brilliance. Spencer Tracy was known as a brilliant gloomy performance, but in Lancaster's story, he was an unpredictable and frequently ruthless force. He said that Tracy was an alcoholic who would get angry, threaten crew people, and even attack co-stars mentally. Lancaster remarked that he could play saints on screen, but he was a devil in the dressing room. Many people forgave Tracy for his actions since he was talented and had a troubled past, but Lancaster just saw the harm he left behind. 6. James Stewart, the dark heart of America's sweetheart. James Stewart, who is recognized for his great attitude and parts in It's a Wonderful Life, was probably the most surprising person on Lancaster's list. And Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Stewart was seen as the epitome of goodness. Lancaster, on the other hand, said it was a carefully made mask. He said that Jimmy Stewart smiled on TV but criticized everyone off camera, supposedly a chilly and rude man in private. In Lancaster's opinion, Stewart's love of his country and moral uprightness were ways for him to control others and improve his own image. 7. Marilyn Monroe, the angel of addiction. Marilyn Monroe was a tragic, beautiful symbol of weakness for the world, but Lancaster saw her as a force of destruction. He called her a black hole of need because her addictions and insecurities sapped everyone around her. He said that Monroe used her fame to stall productions, lure powerful people, and play on people's pity. He wrote that she made herself weak so that other people would have to carry her. He also said that her behavior caused problems for directors, performers, and even whole studios. 8. Lancaster, the devil-may-care dictator, didn't hold back when he wrote about Errol Flynn, who he said was a charming sociopath, dressed as a pirate. He talked about crazy parties, violent outbursts, and a long line of victims who were quieted by money and fear. People generally thought Flynn's actions were just bad fun, but Lancaster thought they were hiding real evil. He wrote that Flynn lived as if nothing and no one else mattered because they didn't. 9. Bing Crosby, the nasty singer. Lancaster talked of a scary contradiction, even as Bing Crosby's smooth voice serenaded millions. He remarked the voice belonged to a man of ice, which was a reference to Bing's supposed coldness, especially toward his kids. Lancaster said that there were allegations that Bing was a strict dad and didn't talk to anyone on set. He could croon a lullaby to the world, and then beat his sons behind closed doors, he wrote, hinting at the abuse that Crosby's own kids later verified. 10. Gary Crosby, the one who inherited the gloom. Lancaster says that Bing's son Gary Crosby was the bitter result of his father's violence, and that he became vicious too. Lancaster said that he didn't simply have the scars, he also had the anger. As an adult, Gary reportedly hit out at people around him. Lancaster didn't see him as a villain from birth. Instead, he regarded him as a terrible example of inherited trauma that had turned toxic and caused cycles of addiction, anger and hatred. 11. Henry Fonda. The Ice King Henry Fonda was typically thought of as a guy of calm integrity, but Lancaster saw something else: emotional detachment that was almost cruel. He acted like life was a cold, sterile trial where everyone was judging him. He claimed that Lancaster saw Fonda's restrained attitude as not introversion but dislike. He judged people with a single look, and those who were in his shadow froze. Lancaster said that even his kids were hurt by his distant parenting style, which Jane Fonda later corroborated. 12. Jane Fonda. Burt Lancaster was a revolutionary with a vicious side, saw Jane Fonda as more than simply a political firebrand. She was someone who would give up anything, even relationships, reputations, and even the truth for her cause. He thought she was calculating, and used activism as both a shield and a sword. He claimed that she used her ideas as weapons to control the story, and silence those who disagreed with her. He said she could be warm one minute and cold the next. 13. Joan Crawford, the Iron Lady. Joan Crawford would have to be on any list of supposed Hollywood tyrants. Lancaster said she was a lady with iron ambition and nerves of steel, and that she could control a set with just her stare. He said she was intimidating younger actors, abusing help, and changing how the public saw her. He stated she ruled with her fists and her eyebrows, which was the same harsh way of parenting. Christina, her daughter, subsequently told. 14. Lucille Ball, the Queen of Control. Lancaster says that Lucille Ball was a dictator when the cameras weren't running, even though she was revered for her comedic genius. He said that Lucy didn't simply want to be funny, she wanted to own everything. She was said to have micromanaged employees, made deals behind people's backs, and ruled her dominion like a war zone. Lancaster said that her famed laugh could become as sharp as a whip when things didn't go her way. We don't know if these claims were true, exaggerated, or the result of an actor's resentment after being let down. Burt Lancaster never released this memoir while he was alive. If it does exist, it's probably in a dusty archive, or a private estate. It's news that will shake the very foundations of Hollywood folklore. But one thing is for sure, if even a small part of Lancaster's story is genuine, the golden age of Hollywood was built not only on fantasies, but also on secrets, misdeeds, and the star's shadows. In the last years of Burt Lancaster's life, a number of serious health problems slowly took away his formerly strong physical presence and imposing film character. Lancaster was known for his athletic frame and energetic performances at the height of his cinematic career. He had always lived a physically demanding life, which made the decline in his health even more sad. But as he got older, he developed a series of major health problems that slowly took away his vigor and freedom. Atherosclerosis was one of the biggest health problems Lancaster had to deal with in his final years, a disease that causes plaque to build up in the arteries, making them hard and narrow. This long-term condition can slow down blood flow and make heart attacks and strokes far more likely. For Lancaster, it turned into a deadly condition that could have killed him. The illness caused 2 small heart attacks over time, which were serious indicators about how bad his heart health was. Even though these scary events happened, Lancaster kept living his life with as much dignity and energy as his diminishing health would allow. In 1983, his health took a turn for the worse when he needed emergency quadruple coronary artery bypass surgery. This extensive surgery, which involved grafting arteries or veins to get around blocked coronary arteries, was necessary to get more blood to his heart and to stop a heart attack that could be deadly. The surgery was long and showed how bad his condition had gotten. He made it through the operation and seemed to be recovering well at first, but the whole thing wore him down. Lancaster's health kept becoming worse over the course of the decade, even though he had this significant operation. In 1990, he had a terrible stroke that changed his life forever. The stroke made him largely paraplegic, which made it hard for him to move around and live on his own. The stroke took away his capacity to speak, which is even more heartbreaking for a man whose voice had captivated viewers in classic movies like From Here to Eternity and Elmer Gantry. It was especially hard for a talented actor who had relied on both his presence and his expressive voice to bring characters to life to lose his voice. After the stroke, Lancaster mostly stayed out of the public eye because he couldn't live the social or professional life he had before. For the rest of his life he lived in relative solitude, with the help of family and friends and medical experts. The last chapter of Burt Lancaster's amazing life ended on October 20, 1994. He died peacefully at his condo in Century City, a neighborhood on the west side of Los Angeles that is close to the film industry he had helped influence for decades. His third and last heart attack killed him. It was the end of a long fight he had been having with heart disease. He was 80 years old.
Hollywood and film fans throughout the world mourned his loss. Fans and co-workers remembered not only his many achievements to cinema, but also the intense energy and intensity he gave to every performance. Burt Lancaster's legacy lived on, and still does, even though he suffered and was quiet in his final years. Considered one of the most important people in vintage American film.